Video's recording. The video's on. Hi there, guys. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Remain Indoors podcast, where we'll be looking at some lighter news from around the internet, having a grumble when required, and talking about the ways we're keeping ourselves entertained at home. Remain indoors. Welcome to the stream, here for the next 40 minutes or so, talking about life and games and telly and apparently nuclear reactors. And I'm joined by my co-host Matt Trumpets. Did I say it right? Nuclear reactors. That's how...
I think some people say nuclear for reasons that entirely escape me, but I think either pronunciation is acceptable, but I've always said nuclear.
I disagree. I think there is only one correct one, which is like a new, as in the word new, and then clear, as in see through. So that's the only way it'll come out of my mouth correctly. I will instinctively do it the American way, the nuclear. Hey, I've got a nuclear program. But if I say nuclear, that's the only way it comes out of my head. Nuclear. There we go. I think I'm right.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you. That's how I say it too. So clearly, if we both are saying it that way, it's got to be wrong. That's all I can go with.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to explore that. I tell you what. To tell us that we're wrong all the time is the live chat room. They obviously subscribe to the channel, Remain Indoors. They get a notification when we go live, and they come and join us and tell us when we're wrong. We are also going to drop in the Zoom link again. We'll take some calls a bit later on in the show, though. This time we did have a guest, but due to a communication, it's just Matt and I. So we're going to talk a bit of food, a little bit of personal questions, because I just realised how well do I actually know Matt? We talk all the time, but I'm just going to ask him a bunch of personal questions, and we'll see how that goes. And also want to say hi to the person in the chat room. Who was the person that was in first, Matt, and had been waiting for a while?
That's our friend Mitchell Benham.
Yeah, so he was waiting for an hour for this show. Now, I have no illusions that it was worth an hour, Matt, but you're saying the goodness of something is drastically changed by the amount of time you've waited for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you can get it straight away, lots of things are good. But if you have to wait for it, the longer the wait is. And now in New York terms, this has always got to be like a restaurant thing. How long did I have to wait to get into the restaurant? The longer I wait, the better I want that food to be. And if it's not, then you're just furious. You're utterly furious because you sat there for all that time and you're like, not only did I spend $500 on a meal, it wasn't really as good as I wanted it to be.
$500 on a meal?
No, I've never really spent that much quite.
Actually, that'll be an interesting question. What is the most... Sorry, I was reaching for a notepad. What's the most you ever spent on a meal? I don't think I've paid more than like 70 quid a head. I don't think I've ever... I think that I would still consider that crazy. Go on then, chat room. What's the most you've spent on a meal per head? I bet there's some fancy pants in there.
I know what you're doing. You're stealing this topic for your radio show.
And I
see you writing there.
No, honestly, at the end of the week, I take all the things we've talked about on Remain Indoors, and I just transfer the stories over to my radio show notes topic thing. So yeah, nothing gets wasted, and it does happen the other way around as well. It's a shame sometimes with live stuff. With a podcast, it sits there forever. With live radio, I don't think anyone really bothers and listens back. You know, people put the radio on because they want to hear what happens to be on. It's the lazy option, isn't it? Like you go, I'm in the car, I don't want to pick a podcast, I'm going to stick on Radio 2, or presumably BBC Radio Cambridgeshire. If you're listening to the radio, you don't go, I want to hear a radio show. I'm going to go to their website and I'm going to go back and pick my favourite show. So then I always feel like it's a shame. Like if you have a really good topic, like it's gone immediately. Missed Apex, we can keep sharing it on, we had this great Missed Apex F1 chat. Share it all week. On the radio, once it's gone, it's gone. So definitely I will reuse them as much as I can around all our platforms.
Yeah, no, and that's actually great because they're all good ideas. I'm just checking out the chat room and we're starting to get some interesting answers to your immediately asked question.
Go on, let me know.
Not surprising. Our friend Lucas Meyer, I was cutting and pasting so I didn't lose him, but we've gone right to it. So Lucas Myers has spent $110. That's That's
Well,
his
okay.
personal match.
Okay, I could see that. Like, if $110, what's that? Like about 80 quid? Yeah, about the same as me, I think.
Yeah, Taylor Mesa has spent
Ooh.
$200,
Now,
which
now
like
then.
that now we're getting there. Our friend Hannah, who is a uni student, it must be pointed out, has spent a whole £20 on a meal. So good for you, because relatively speaking, that probably was a lot of your money.
Mackie D's.
Oh, here we go. Adam Rosali's $200 at Chez Panisse. I am very jealous of you, because even I've heard of that. Our friend Sam Watley, £180. Mitchell Benham, $150, and that's Australian.
Well, John Pollard says 250 quid a head for a honeymoon. So Taylor and John Pollard there with the $200 and the 250 a head. My question was going to be, yeah, but how often? Like, so for a honeymoon, John, like you can totally go, okay, that is like an experience event, isn't it? That isn't about the food at all. That's you and your fiance, 500 quid. We're going to remember this for a long time, and we're going to regale the chat room with stories of it. But if Taylor, she's in that 200, does that mean, is that $200? Is that like a once a month thing, or was that a experience treat of a lifetime? You see, that's the thing. Standard meal in the UK. If we go out for a rubbish chain restaurant meal, as a family of four, you're really lucky to get away with anything less than 70 quid. So I always find that really depressing. And you go, 70 quid. And it wasn't even that good. We're talking like Chiquitos or Harvester level food. But when you said queuing for food in New York, I've noticed that you New Yorkers seem to not mind queuing for food. So you were saying the longer you have to queue for food, the better it has to be. I would never queue for food. So if I came to a restaurant and there was a queue out of the door, I just wouldn't go. I would just be like, unless I can get a reservation, I'm not going to bother. I'd go, oh, that place is full. I'm going to go somewhere that isn't full.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it is a part. If you are part of the food culture here, so we're not talking just survival. We're not just talking immediate, easy access to food. We're talking about I like going to a museum, or going to the symphony or the opera, or a Formula One race. It's like saying, oh, I can't get in the Formula One race. Let me go watch some people bang school buses around a dirt track. They're not the same experience.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you start to pay that kind of money, you're going there for a real reason. And I'm now desperately trying to bring to mind all of the great restaurants we've been to. Some of the ones were recent when we were in Florence and Venice, and I'll have to go look up I think I had Il Giostro in Florence, and I want to say it was Covino in Venice were our favorite meals out of all of them. But I need to double check and make sure my memory is correct on that. But then if we go back and talk about spending lots of money, I'm going back to when we first had our kid right before we were married, like my wife's 40th birthday, or that kind of thing where I did like a whole weekend celebration for her, and we did all kinds of crazy stuff and spent stupid amounts of money on food. And it was so very good, but also so very long ago.
Let's see, looking in the chat there, Mitchell says, agreed. Don't queue for food, just go somewhere else. Or I would like just pick a quieter time or something like that. Lucas, I hate waiting in line for a restaurant. And Lauren Thomas says, I've queued for a tea room in Ely. I'll do a lot for a good cake.
Understood. Taylor answers your question. Not very often, maybe once a year. So a special, like a once a year, once every 6 months, I'm going to treat myself kind of deal.
Yeah, we should do it. We should do it more because I know the wife likes it. What stops her is the guilt of spending the money on that. But if I went ahead and just booked it for her as like an anniversary or a birthday thing, I don't. I'm terrible at doing it because I also feel the guilt and go, well, it's just a meal. It's a meal like any other. My temptation would be to buy, several days worth of food instead of spend. But that is a flaw. I should appreciate it for the experience. But on Lauren's queuing for a good cake, I have queued for a cupcake before, and funnily enough, it was in Manhattan. And it's the only time I've done it. We went to New York. We went and we got picked up by our good friend Damon Grant, who took us around Manhattan and went, oh my gosh, you've got to try these cupcakes. They're amazing. Now, this is in 2008. So I don't know where the cupcake shops were a relatively new phenomenon. But like he was super excited. He's like, "You've got to try this place. It's got the best cupcakes." I'm like, "Well, how good can a cupcake really be? It's like bread, and then it's like a little cake with some icing on top, basically." And then, you know, recently, like we were in London, and our friends took us to a cupcake place, and it's a whole big thing apparently. But at the time, yeah, I was like, "Why is he taking to a cupcake shop?" And then they were queuing around the block, Matt. So like people were happily waiting an hour to go and get a little cake, which in truth didn't taste any better than one you get at Tesco's.
Yeah, but that's the nature of it. Like something gets written about or gets splashed about. Usually, like the New York Times will go someplace and they'll write about your favorite place, and then you show back up and there's 200 people you've never seen before waiting to get in to the place that you used to just be able to go in and have a table and have good food. So it's always that. And then someone will come up with I can't remember. There's like this croissant cruller combination they came up with, and then everybody was so about that, and you could queue for hours hours to get this stupid things. I never even tried it. I was just even I couldn't go that far.
I cannot imagine any restaurant being so good that I would have to queue for an hour. I would say I'm definitely never going to do that, especially if you've got kids as well. It's like properly stressful when everyone's hungry, because it's bad enough when you go to a restaurant normally and you get sat down. If it's busy, even if you get sat down straight away, you know, it can still be 40 minutes until you have food. And of course you didn't eat before you went there because you went there to have food. So I think I might just hate going to restaurants altogether, Matt.
Well, if you appreciate the food, then you're willing to put up with the hassle. But what I'll say about that is the best places. Well, I mean, everybody knows the high-end places, so they always go there. Those places, you got to get a reservation, and you're paying, you know, like in New York, if the two of us went out to like a top place, that's like $500, easy, to get a good solid meal. But the best places that I like to go are places that you will never hear about because they're local and they're tiny, and only certain people know about them. And once they get known, you're on to find the next place.
In Rome, the best food we had was when we were a little bit lost off the beaten track, and we had kind of gone, right, well, do you know what, we're just hungry, let's just find somewhere. And it was a little side street like place, and I think there was only like 2 or 3 other people in there. Best lasagna that I've ever had, and like that wasn't advertised anywhere, it wasn't reviewed anywhere, and it was the owners were making it, and we felt like we were at home actually. So yeah, there we go. Yeah,
so, you know, you're talking about this, and I feel your pain, especially with kids. It's really hard to go to good restaurants when you have kids. But there's definitely a point, like I know our daughter got to a point, she was always pretty good in restaurants. She always kind of like going there because it's a little bit like theater. They bring you the things, but we definitely got to a point where we could take her to the good restaurants, and that opened up a whole new world of things. And I see that Sam is suggesting we try eating in Central France. They're only vaguely interested in getting served. Anytime before closing will do. And I don't know, have you been to France?
Yeah, that was like our go-to school trip place when we were kids, so like day trips and things.
Okay, so but not as an adult. You haven't been there as
an
adult.
No, I've not been as an adult, no.
We noticed that if you go out to eat dinner in France, like say we go out to eat dinner and we're not hungry, and we go and we sit down at a table and say, you know, we'd like a baguette and a coffee, it would still take 2.5 hours to finish that meal. It's like you cannot escape. Once you're sat at a table, it's 2.5 hours minimum if you eat any place in France at all.
Yeah, chat room's agreeing. Summers is in here. Summers, why don't you? Summers, you should come on this program. Matthew Summerfield off of motorsport.com, proper like legit big time motorsport journo. You're hanging out in the chat room anyway. You might as well have come on the call. Right, next week you need to be a guest on here, Summers. Absolutely no choice. Adam Rosales, one of our iRacing rivals. I kept seeing him pop up ahead of me, faster than you and me, I think. Had the best ravioli at a random spot we walked into. Oh, a hole. I guess that's slang for a venue, an establishment.
Hole in the wall, like a tiny little place.
Best ravioli at a random spot we walked into Rome a few months ago. Yeah, so there we go. Wander the side streets. stay safe, everyone. That's not advice from me. I'm not saying wander off into strange areas of foreign countries. Although, Rome was actually much quieter than I expected. I thought it was going to be really, really busy. But even around the Pantheon, I don't know if you went any. You don't go to Rome when you went to Italy, did you, Matt? Near the Pantheon.
No, we did Florence and Venice.
Really nice courtyard around the Pantheon with pizzerias and stuff, and it was quiet and beautiful and lovely, and just had such a family feel compared to the UK. Even at like 9, 10 at night, there was children there, and they were being reasonably well behaved, and I don't know, it all just felt a bit more chill. Well, this isn't what we were planning to do at all. It's a waste of time writing show notes, Matt. I'm not bothering tomorrow. I say we just come in tomorrow and just see what the chat room are talking about.
Ooh, all right. So everybody, Lucas Myers poses a question, honeymoon worthy. I have to start thinking about those things. So,
oh, wait a minute. Right, Lucas, honeymoon worthy. You have to start thinking about those things. That means you are about to get married. Okay, Matt, we can save him. So often we get to these guys too late. Lucas, don't do it. Just spend the rest of your life doing whatever you want. If you don't get married, no one will ever tell you to not play video games, not play golf, or that you're drinking too much beer.
His wife to be is a big gamer and is in favor of his iRacing habit.
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's a tough one, right?
Look, if we could go back in time, my wife would be so surprised at what she said before we got married, at the stuff she said, the activities we used to do together. And I would go, look, you haven't always been the fun police. You claimed that you thought it was cool that I would hang out and play video games with your brother. Me and my brother-in-law used to play Xbox on Halo all the time. And she was like, oh, it's really good that, you sit and hang out with my brother even though we don't live close. Right now, it's like, oh, you're playing games again.
Lucas says his wife is a big F1. His wife to be is a big F1 fan. But Beth Griffith replies, Spanners is right. Don't do it.
No, don't do it. And then when children come along, oh, geez, like there's no time. There's no time for anything. And in fact, the weekends are like I don't want to say my weekends with the kids dragged by, but wife was sort of doing more work over the weekend. We're kind of alternating. So while she's in the shed working, I'm homeschooled and parenting. And it just so happened that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, she was doing a lot of shedding, because it's our shed now, isn't it? And I had the kids a lot. Now, Thursday night was our iRacing tournament. Loads of fun. Brilliant. Now, it got to this morning. Now, we do those every 2 weeks at the moment, is the plan during the lockdown. And I thought, oh, man, it's going to be the iRacing this Friday. And then Sam there sent me a message saying, oh, we need to get our butts in gear with the admin. And I was like, that's right. It's this Friday. It's been 2 weeks already. And it's like, no, the iRacing was 4 days ago. That feels like forever ago. Time is dragging like hell.
Yeah, each day seems like a year. It's so very long. And somehow, of all the things that I want to do most, I never quite can manage to get to them, even though technically I have very little work to do between the shows and helping the kid and the video editing and the this and the that and the having to check on the this and the I'm like, how is it possible that I've not managed to do more hobby stuff when theoretically I have less work to do? I can't explain.
Okay, so we moved into this house in 2015, right? And you come in and it was definitely a fixer-upper, right? So we had a choice between old rubbish house or like the new builds. And I don't know what it's like in the States, Matt, but in the UK, the new builds are like stupidly small. Like they've really gone for maximizing the amount of land that they can use. So they will make these new builds with the bedrooms are tiny, the rooms are small, the hallways are really skinny, and then in the showrooms they'll put like really small beds. So you'll go in there and you go, oh, it's quite roomy in here. But then as soon as you put your bed in, you go, oh, actually, because we didn't notice. We were looking at one and we went, oh, this isn't too bad. And then I went, hang on a minute, that bed is, what size bed is that? And it turned out it was like smaller than a queen size bed to make these rooms look bigger. So we ended up going for a more roomy but slightly falling apart, sort of bit crappy looking house. Like, we love the house, don't get me wrong, and I love having like a bit of a space and open plan and big bedrooms, but it needed a lot of work. So the first few weeks that we came in, it was like a Herculean effort to get the plaster and paint on the walls, repair the things that needed repairing. But we got to a certain point and we just went, do you know what? Life has to continue. We can't just be fixing this house. Let's stop. Let's pause. We're going to get back to all those jobs. But now we need to concentrate on getting back to work, school, and everything like that. We never got back to those jobs. So even though the upstairs rooms are painted in a certain color and it matches the downstairs, the hallway, because it's slightly tricky and we needed to like sand really high up, it never got done. And so we were determined when the lockdown started, we were like, this is the time we're going to finally do the staircase between the floors. And we haven't done it. And so in our house, you've got a reasonable looking living room. The rooms are sort of vaguely decorated, but with, a layer of toys on the floor. But in between the two, you go up our stairwell. It's like a half stair. And you go, oh my God, this is like a war zone. What happened here? Was there a conflict in this stairwell?
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I look around and I'm like, oh, in the office, I was going to do this. I was going to do that. I did do some home fix-it stuff when we first started, but it's just like, well, and it's also a rental for us. So it's a completely different thing. I have bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
Lucas says in the chat that everything is, quote, ours now. So it may be too late to save him after all.
Let's be clear, though. It's not just Lucas in the chat room. You're just being particularly amusing. Hello to Adam, Cater, John, Mitchell, Tom, Hannah. Let's see. Oh, there's loads of people in here today. Clappers is in there as well. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'll pop a Zoom link in a little while and we'll say hello to a few people.
I want Caterham Nut to call in because he writes the following comment. Best road trip was working in New York City for 6 years, flew back to UK, picked up our Caterham, drove over the Alps to Lake Como, coach each day to the Monza Grand Prix. And he found an amazing pizza place there. That sounds like a story.
Certainly does. So, productivity, getting things done. I've had this news article sat here for the longest time.
Kind of appropriate.
Yes, I know. It's all linked in that today is the time I bumped it up into the show notes. And it is an article by a person called Aisha S. Ahmad. And this was written on March 27th, so right near the beginning of the lockdown. And this saved, I think, our household. And I think it might have saved our marriage as well. Because very early on, my wife went into full, we discussed this, I think, at the beginning of Remain Indoors, into full nesting mode. And she admits this is not me being a sexist pig. She said she felt the same as when she was pregnant with our kids. That everything needed to be perfect. We needed to do the most homeschooling. We needed to do all the projects. The house needed to be perfect because we were going to be there. So I'll just do a quick extract from this article, which was entitled "Why You Should Ignore Coronavirus-Inspired Productivity Pressure." Global catastrophes change the world, and this pandemic is very much akin to a war. If we contain the crisis within a few months, the legacy of the pandemic will live with us for years, perhaps decades to come. It will change the way we move, build, learn, and connect. There is no way our lives will resume as if this never happened. So while it may feel good in the moment, it's foolish to dive into a frenzy of activity or obsess about your scholarly productivity right now. Doing so is denial and delusion. The emotionally and spiritually sane response is to prepare to be changed forever. And yeah, I think this article made my wife go, right, okay, stop, pause. We didn't cause this. We are not responsible for it. The children aren't on fire. Let's stop beating ourselves up. And let's realize that what we are actually doing, instead of having this short, sharp period of having to get everything done, it's actually a transition. We're actually experiencing life changing forever, and we need to adapt to this like you would any other change. If you got a new job and a new car or a new house, you don't change everything immediately. You go, okay, this is life now. How can we better go about living it? And that took the gas off. It sort of eased the brakes on, and it meant that we kind of gently went into, right, how can we make our lives good right now? Because we've got to start treating this not as some frozen moment. I know I'm waffling a bit, but not like some frozen moment in time, But actually, these few months are a significant part of our lives. And I think we're in danger of wishing them away or going, okay, well, this 3 months doesn't count, so I'm going to learn Spanish. But like, these 3 months absolutely count. And to kids, it counts like 10 times as much. So you've got to treat it as a part of your life like you would normally, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And it's an interesting perspective because the wife and I are completely different at this point. It is a change. Things will not go back to the way they were. The new world will be different. We just don't know how or what it's going to look like yet. And that uncertainty is really, it's degrading. If you have a family, you're used to being able to think, oh, I'm thinking about, what I'm going to do next fall. I'm thinking about how much money, where we're going to go on vacation. And now you're thinking like, how long is it before I might need to go out for groceries again? So your timeline, everything is altered. But it, as my wife said, essentially my professional career and her professional career depend on people getting together in large groups in closed rooms. When is that going to happen again? We don't know. We have no idea at all. For me, I'm a little bit luckier because I have this project that we had been gradually building, and we were well placed to sort of move into the expansion of it and to work on other side things. It's kept me busy. The iRacing has kept me busy because I view that as part of, even though I know it's like just an excuse we make to our wives, right? But it's true. I feel like I have to show up and I have to be competent at our iRaces because I feel like, and this is probably not true at all, part of why people want to do that is because you and I actually race. So it's kind of like the karting event. I'm not the fastest person there, but people are there because we did this thing, and it's super cool for them to be a part of it with us. You know what I mean?
Well, we found that community doing the iRacing, and I'm sure there's other online activities that don't even involve race cars, but why would you want to do those? But that isn't going to go away. Like, we're never going to go, I'm not saying never, but we're not going to flop back to not having that community. So it's not like, oh, we're going to do this iRacing. We've made friends with the people that we're doing it with. We've identified people we enjoy racing against. When lockdown ends, we're not just going to say, oh, okay, we'll forget about that. Bye, Clappers, Adam. We'll never see you again. Because we're building something that will still exist. We might not have as much time for it, but we're making an actual real change. So that's part of our lives now, Matt. It's not like we're going, okay, well, this 3 months is a separate entity in time. It's not a bubble. This is the beginning of the rest of time.
Yeah. And so the point I'm making is, like, for me, while I still have ongoing things, I have projects I'm engaged in, I have a reason to get up every morning and go do stuff, even if it would have been trivial stuff or not happened in the before time. It is now a focus, and it sort of keeps you rolling forward. But my wife, everything she does professionally, and just not to brag too much, but in her non-writing professional career, she was pretty much at the top of her field for what she did. She worked at places like the Metropolitan Opera, places Broadway. She worked at the height of her field, the height of her craft. And then she got a phone call and it all just evaporated. And there's no guarantee that any of it will ever come back because we don't know when it's going to happen. And I think it's thrown her for a loop. And I think it's thrown a lot of people for a loop. So navigating that has also been tricky because at the same time, if you've got a kid, you got your kid at home and you have to help them with school. And just like, I don't know, if you ever tried to help a kid all day at their schoolwork, it's annoying. But if you don't, then they don't finish it, right?
It's so annoying. It's so annoying, Matt. And I'm a terrible teacher. So basically, I've got like a few of the mornings of the week where we're only doing it in the morning. We're doing like 9 till lunchtime. We're not doing full days of education. It's too much, and they get sick of us. They need to have time to just go upstairs and run around and scream and shout or whatever, or go and jump on the trampoline. We can't do homeschooling 9 to 5. We would all kill each other. But even in that 3 hours, like I completely end up mucking around. Like they wrote stories, so I end up narrating, their stories, giving backstories to the characters and stuff like that. But yeah, it's still annoying. Even with making the best of it, it's still annoying because I've got an insight into what my boy is like at school. So I've set him the task. All right, you've got to read that English comprehension and then answer the questions. And then I look up from my computer and he's playing with the cat with a pencil. You know, he's making the cat chase his pencil. Or as I caught him doing, he was looking at open scissors. So, like, if you can imagine it, like he was just staring at the scissors. He'd opened them, but when I look up, he's just staring at these open scissors, pointing at his eyes, and he's just really studying what they look like and playing with the focus of his eyes. So instead of doing his English comprehension, he's got the points of scissors pointing at his face. I'm like, dude, can you just, for the 10th time, can you just do the task that's in front of you? And then I just get fed up, and then right, okay, playtime. Go playtime, come back, refocus, let's see what we can do. But yeah, you're not wrong. It's annoying. But with a 15-year-old, hopefully less annoying.
Yeah, it's less annoying. She's more on task, and she gets weirdly into stuff. Like, she'll be in a project. She has this thing where she doesn't want to submit work when she's completed it because she's afraid about the grade she'll get. Now, she gets really good grades generally across the board, and she almost always does well on stuff. But being at home, like, each project is now taking on greater and greater. So it's like playing poker. Like, I used to play poker. You probably knew this about me. I used to play poker with other musicians. And we started out playing, like, you know, nickel, dime, quarter poker. And when I finally gave up, it was $51, $2. And the stakes, well, you know, when you're a musician and you don't have a lot of money, you know, I can remember betting like all the money I had on a single hand for, like, you know, this is it. This is like no food, no nothing. I couldn't buy anything. Like, my next gig was a week and a half away. And I had a hand that I thought was unbeatable. The pot was huge. And I was just like, okay.
You went for it.
You know, for her, it's like that now. Every single assignment is I'm all in with my entire fortune. Well, and it's getting harder to get her to press the submit button because she's afraid she's missed a thing. She keeps on wanting to go back and check and check and check and check, you know?
Okay, so is it Google that has the philosophy of finished is better than perfect? Or, you know, lines to that effect, or like done is better than perfect. So I suffer from this. The more time I've got, the more time I will spend on a project or an activity. If I'm in a hurry, then I'll eventually click submit. And interesting, because me and my wife are spending more time working together now. We're talking about work management and file flow, and she's asking about my naming system. And like every output for a video or audio project is called such and such draft, or draft 2, or some kind of draft. And I never save anything as the finished thing. So basically, when I run out of time, I just submit the draft I'm on. If you give me limitless time, I'll just keep working on it.
The first edit that I saved of my daughter's school video was called Halfway.
Halfway, there you go. But yeah, it's just draft. And see, sometimes, yeah, it's a skill to go, that it's rough to say that'll do, and it doesn't feel very professional. But sometimes you go, no, that will do. You're done now. Move on.
Yeah, well, actually, as a musician, you learn that pretty rapidly. It's like, oh, yeah, this is good enough for this situation. And that's what it needs to be. It needs to be good enough for the situation. Not everything has to be the highest art and the most perfect. Because if you get that in your head, you'll never do anything.
Yeah, and you kind of, I've learned this with edits of things. At some point, you have to trust yourself, because it's really easy to tell yourself it's not good enough. Because in your head, you know the other ideas you had and the potential you had, and that extra little sentence you were going to put in that you know is missing. But no one else reading or listening or watching your thing has any idea what you were thinking of. They just see what was presented. So you don't need to. I sit there thinking, but we only included 70% of the news stories on Missed Apex. People listening don't know that. They don't know we planned, 3 extra stories that we never got to. But see, this is good. I'm getting to know you.
Yeah.
Now, knowing that you were a gambler, and sounds like you had a bit of a gambling problem. So I've got these questions lined up. Now, I never normally do these Facebook ones, but it was one of these virally ones that says, I'm bored. Answer these 40 questions about yourself. And I thought, it's okay. I can use this to interrogate Matt. But let's start with the gambling. So do you gamble now? Ever?
I probably would if there was like an easy poker night I could go to or something like that. I wouldn't go out of my way to do it. But if my friends were like, hey, we're playing poker next week, yeah, I'd show up and play.
So if you and I, for a karting event, let's say there was some mix-up with the planes and, you've ended up arriving on the Thursday night instead of the Friday night, and we were to go and hit a casino, you and I would have a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Usually at casinos, I tend towards blackjack. But I depending upon how much money I had allotted for the evening, I could play poker or roulette or stuff like that. It's always fun.
So I've been, I enjoy a gamble, and
Hadn't noticed.
yeah, yeah. Well, I try not to talk about it too much because, like, there's clearly a dark side to gambling. You know, it's like saying I
Yes.
like a drink, but there are alcoholics that exist. You know, I enjoy a gamble, but there are people who have real struggles with it, and I saw it secondhand with my best friend at school, Chris, who ran into he ran into £35,000 worth of debt in the early 2000s when credit cards would just give people out loans. Like, it was amazing the
Yeah.
amount of loans were going out. It was
Yeah.
really easy. He ran up 35,000 in debt, doing bigger and bigger bets to rescue himself. You know, he was betting on NFL. He didn't really
Yeah.
understand NFL, but he'd got to grips with the betting side of it. So, like, for me, it's tennis. I don't really understand tennis, but I understand how to bet on tennis in play, and I could talk about that system forever. It's great fun, very time consuming. NFL, £35,000 he lost. He put on big enough bets. He started clawing it back in, yeah, and he clawed back nearly all the way back from £35,000 debt to zero debt. So he was nearly all the way free, and then in the end ended up over £70,000 in debt in the early 2000s, and that's when the creditors started coming in, and he had to go to court and got a county court judgment against him, you know, which meant he had to pay a small amount back forever. So I've seen it firsthand. It's horribly destructive in the same way alcohol can be horribly destructive, but I still enjoy betting. We have a rule at a casino. So at a casino or a dog track, what you'll see is I'll have one pocket for money I'm going to spend on bets. So I already know the amount of money I'm allowed to spend on bets. If I lose a bet, it's gone. If I win a bet, it goes into the win pocket, and the win pocket never gets used again. So say I go in there with 50 quid. 50 quid is the most I can possibly spend. And that's what we do. We've even had the kids at the dog track. That's the most you can spend. Whereas where people lose is where they think they're winning. I've seen someone do it with roulette as well. They think they're winning, and so they keep thinking that roll is going to last forever. You spend your winnings even, go back down, and then end up going back and getting more. Oh, well, if I got up to 300 quid before and I lost it, I'll just go to the cash point, get another 20 quid, because I can do it again. I did it once. I can do it again.
Yeah, no, that's always a mistake. If you don't have a budget you stick to when you walk into a casino or a track, then you're already doing it wrong. For me, I'm like, well, how much would I spend if I went out? $75, $100. Okay, so that I will gamble that money instead. And when it's gone, it's like I've spent it on dinner and I'm done, because they bring you free drinks, they bring you free food all night long. So I'll just hang out with whoever's there if I'm not having a winning night, and drink. So I don't have to worry about that. And then if you win, like you said, the trick is pocketing the winnings separately, and keeping it. That's how you get ahead of that game. And even at that, you have to be good and you have to be lucky, because the odds are in favor of the house, and they always have been.
Oh, definitely, except if you're really, really good at gambling like me. No. There are some exceptions to that. So I find Texas Hold'em, obviously there's a huge element of luck, but a lot of it is in your control as well. So I like some Texas Hold'em. I like me some blackjack, because I think that is something where you can use your judgment to get out at the right time. And usually it is about just getting out at the right time. You're always going to win and lose. But yeah. And then there's somewhere the luck of it is just fun. So roulette, I enjoy the luck of roulette because that's fun.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, so I enjoy a gamble, and I'm not hiding it. I'm not like gambling in secret. So my kids will occasionally see me put a bet on Formula One. And actually, I like betting on Formula One because we're Formula One pundits of a sort. So I see my Formula One betting as literally putting my money where my mouth is, and how I respond to trends. And generally, I will put 20, 30 quid in my account at the beginning of the season. And I think in the last 5 years, I haven't really had to ever top that up again. You know, that has lasted me the season. And I'm putting on like £2, £3. So the kids see me do it. So I have to teach them responsible gambling. and I've made 2 attempts so far. It's not really worked. The 10 penny pushes in the arcades, you know, where you put a coin in and it does a waterfall effect. The penny pushes and it comes down and it pushes them, and some coins, if they get pushed off the end, you collect them from the bottom. If you're really lucky, it pushes a coin out. So we do it with the 2p coins. That's fine because, you know, spending £1. Then they said, Dad, can we do the 10p ones? Now, 10p ones, you can start rolling through money quite quickly. So I thought I'd teach them a lesson and say, right, £1 each, go and put them all in, and you'll see that it's a waste of money. Of course, Vivi then drops like £2.40, and she's like, well, this is brilliant. You make money from doing this. Give me more. And then the other example I tried to do was put some lottery tickets on. I don't know how many other people play the lottery, but put some lottery tickets on at the weekend. And usually it's a sign in my own head that I feel like I've hit a career bottleneck. Whenever I feel like I'm not making progress, I go, or I could buy some lottery tickets. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind buying the lottery at all. So put some lottery tickets on, and I got left with an odd number of monies, and they've got little instant games there. So I had £1.70 on there, and so I used it as the opportunity to teach them about odds. You can see in the little mini games, they're like mini scratch cards. You have scratch cards in the US, don't you? And
yeah, we have that.
So you can see the odds and the amount of money and the potential prizes. So it was a good way of learning that it's like, look how quickly this money goes away. And this was only the other day. Did a couple of scratch cardy things, instantly won 11 quid. So I'm like, oh, blimey. All right. Okay.
Not the lesson I wanted to teach.
I tell you what, right? I was only playing the small odds games. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to play the £1 games now, and you'll see it starts draining down. It got down to 4 quid, I think. And then we won a fiver, and then another 6 quid. So we're back up at like 12, 13 quid. Oh, bloody. So we ended up doing it for like 2 hours. It was loads of fun, but all the time talking about the odds, talking about safe gambling, all that kind of thing. Yeah. But I could see in their eyes, they were getting hooked. I'm like, oh, God. Now we're all just hooked on online scratch cards. I've still got the money sitting. We're still in credit.
Yeah, well, you should teach them to bet on stocks because the chat room is going off. Apparently, Aston Martin was a properly fun bet for several people in the chat room. And our friend John M bought some Formula One stock, which he said was really pretty fun until about the beginning of March. And if you think that's bad, Lucas Myers bought Williams stock back in the day. Oh, yeah, ouch.
Yeah. I've got one friend who has investments and stocks and shares, and he's always been trying to get me into it. And he works in the oil industry as well now. Back in the before time, he convinced me to put £1,000 in a trading app where you could buy and sell shares. And you had to track it. It's really hard work. Like, it's properly hard work. And every time you do a transition, you lose some of your thing because you have to pay a percentage.
There's a fee. Yeah.
There's a fee. So it really suits you people just sitting on it. But at the time, I was like, oh, I don't really want to just have money sitting there that could have been rent or food or whatever. So I think I had a third of it in Yahoo, a third of it in NatWest Bank, and a third of it in Netflix. And this was when Netflix had just started the streaming service. So had I left it all there, they were pretty good picks. But I didn't have the patience or the funds to let it sit there. But you can see how people make money when they don't mind that it's sitting there. And really the only risk was if one of them was to go out of business. Now he's trying to convince me to get into spread betting on oil and gold. And I don't understand it at all. But he's over the last couple of months, he's talked me through his predictions with Brent oil and all the negotiations that were happening between your king and the Russian king. And it was like, oh, he's done quite well in that. And he's like, there we go. You should dive in now. I'm like, oh, no. But I've learned stuff about it, like how the value of gold is linked to the US dollar. I didn't know that. So he's betting at the moment that the US is going to go into hyperinflation to recover from the coronavirus debt, which will then shoot the price of gold up into the air. There we go. So that's worth a gamble if anyone's
I'm
interested.
looking forward to being Venezuela. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, haven't the US inflated their way out of debt before? They've done it once before.
One can always print more money if one needs one, if one is the government. Yeah, this is absolutely true. I don't know. And the danger of any bet on the U.S. right now is obvious needs to be super short term because we have the election in November, which could, of course, change a lot of things in terms of how debt and financing and taxation are handled. So I would just throw that out there for people who are seriously into investing. It seems like to me this is a bad time to be doing a lot of short-term plays because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But hey, if you get a system that works, more power to you. I was just impressed because we were talking to Matthew. Was it Matthew Carter we were talking to? Or no, was it Joe? I can't remember. But someone told me that when Toto Wolff invested in Aston Martin, he probably just borrowed the money from a bank to invest and didn't use his own money. And I was like, wow. Now there's a reason I should have studied finance and not music, because I'd like to own $50 million of a company. Here, bank, give me money. Thank you.
I know.
How does that work? I don't understand, even to this day. So confusing.
They went to school and had money behind them. They were smart. Yes, I am definitely jealous of that. So we didn't really get to our list of personal questions I was going to ask you. But the beauty of this show is that it's still there, isn't it? It's not going anywhere. It's sat in the show notes. Let's see what Mitchell has to say. I decided to put the Zoom link in the chat room there. And, I didn't learn from last time. I've got to press admit them, and then waffle for a little while until Mitchell is able to join us. He's on mute now. I think I have to unmute him. There we go. Oh, look at this. What a fancy setup Mitchell's got there. How's it going? What's your comment for Remain Indoors?
I have, it is really delayed. So very strange things going on here. I've been setting up, I've been playing my keyboard, just enjoying a bit of lockdown. I have the dream situation that my wife and 1-year-old daughter have moved out to look after her parents during isolation. So I'm home all alone.
Oh, wow.
That's strange in its own way, but also kind of interesting as well.
Well, you've kind of got
lots of noise,
the best of both
drum
worlds.
set in the living room, all that sort of silliness. So
can you hear us, Mitchell? Can you hear us okay?
I can, yes.
Yeah, okay. Turn your radio down, sir. Turn your radio down. You've got the best scenario in that you have the love of your family. You know they're coming back. It's not like you're like, no, I'm going to die alone. But you've got like the ultimate peace and quiet. You've got like a proper dad holiday. Tell me that you're drinking far too much, staying up late, never wearing pants, and playing video games.
Guys, I'm not wearing pants right now. So... I have to go to work. I just work in a normal job, but here in Australia, all jobs are essential. So I've been going to work every day. I speak to lots of people in the public, so maybe a bit risky. So sent those two away, which is safe for them. They can also look after the in-laws a bit as well. Just enjoying a holiday is a good way of putting it. And that this comes on at 11 p.m. every night is just excellent.
Our friend Adam says, sounds like no pants. And John M. is suggesting perhaps we should rename our podcast to Remain Seated.
No evidence of pants or trousers. So, Mitchell, nice to speak to. This is brilliant having the call-ins, and it's better than radio call-ins because I can see you and your fine mane of curly hair. So you are Australian. Whereabouts in Australia?
I'm in Brisbane in Queensland, so the north half.
Oh, really? So isn't like the program Neighbours that I used to watch as a kid and just thought Australia was the best and friendliest place ever, Ramsay Street, that's in the southy bit, isn't it?
Yes, that's in Victoria, I believe.
And then you've got the northy bit. So do you guys get on? Because you must just never see each other.
No.
It's like a separate country.
No, there's a big game of rugby league every year where the Queensland and New South Wales play against each other. It's the biggest rivalry we have got. It's important to people, very important to people. And it's all cancelled this year and people are very, very upset about it. It's we spent the first 2 weeks of our sort of lockdown quarantine period kind of arguing about when sport would resume, despite Grand Prix being cancelled as well. But it was all about the local football leagues.
It's like with Formula One. It's are you a listener to Missed Apex as well, Mitchell?
Yes.
Yeah. So for us, like we were saying on the podcast, when it came to my kids and school and everything, I was very pro lockdown. I don't think that's a political statement. I just thought it's a virus that can kill people. We should hide from it, curl up in a small ball and hide from it. But then when it came to F1 and the Australian Grand Prix, I was like, oh, come on. Oh, they can do a little racing car race. That's fine. My objectivity went out of the window because it was F1.
Well, Sunday the race should go ahead, but Monday nobody should go to work or school. I agree.
There we go. Thank you very much for joining us, Mitchell. If you could do me a favour
Thanks,
and hang up on the call, that actually really helps me. Really nice to speak to a listener. And Matt, how amazing is it to have, I know we keep saying it, but like just the international feel of the world now. There's well, I'm just chatting to my buddy in Brooklyn. We're doing a podcast together. It certainly doesn't feel like you're 8,000 miles away. And then some fella, some curly-haired desert warrior from the opposite side of the globe, literally the opposite side of the globe, just pops in, takes a break from pantslessly swigging lager at his barbecue to just chat to a Brit and an American on a podcast.
Yeah, I've always loved that about this entire project, is just how one world it is, I guess, how global it is and its appeal and reach. And I love the fact that we would be number 17 in Lithuania and Formula One podcast for some random reason. And what was it? Wasn't there a country in Africa one time where we were on their F1 podcast list for like a week because I guess one or two people listened to it?
I don't know, but
Nobody.
There's a country in South America where we're the undisputed top F1 podcast. I can't remember which one it is now. I think it might be Uruguay. And it's like, well, we're massive in Uruguay. I don't know how
just
big.
Move there. Why not?
Maybe the podcast market is not particularly big in Uruguay, and we, like I said, we could have like 100 listeners in Uruguay, and that's enough to put us to the top. No, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch those charts.
Yeah, and I love talking to people from different places and just like hearing about their everyday day because, and I know you've probably taken the kids on trips already, but like taking our daughter to France, taking her to Italy, taking her to the UK, and looking at how she reacts to how people live differently, how things are put together differently, how the pace of life is different in different places, and what she learns from being there. I mean, I've always loved that. I've always learned understanding how people live their lives in different ways, because it's not like there's a single best way to do it. You know what I mean?
No, and like we can speak to, like, I don't know anything about Sweden, but the guy who runs our website on Missed Apex is Felix, and like every Skype call, he answers shirtlessly whilst drinking wine out of a pint glass. So I assume that is what Swedish people do all the time. It's just a nation of very attractive people shirtlessly swigging wine out of pint glasses. That is Malmo streets all look like that.
It sounds like a teenage fantasy to me, but hey, why not?
Oh, that's good. It's good. We do get these brilliant insights from around the world. So thank you, Mitchell. And what a good pro setup Mitchell had as well. Don't worry, if you want to talk to us, you don't have to be in as good a setup as Mitchell. Although Mitchell, I will say, I also have a piano in my background. I can't play it though.
Yeah. When is Ms. Spanners finally going to wrap you over the knuckles with the ruler and teach you?
It's not happening. I'm not learning a musical instrument now. It's like I'm not going to learn another language, and I'm not going to learn piano. It's over. It's too late for me. I tried playing the ukulele, and I sort of can, but then you need to practice all the time. And the kids were like, Dad, stop playing the same song over and over again. I'm like, that's how you practice. I have to put up with you playing chopsticks constantly on the piano. But no. Anyway, and I got bored of it as well. It's like, I'm not going to be the best ukulele player. I'm 40. It's like, I'm going to get slightly better. It just all feels a bit too late. I can't be bothered. So no, in short, I'm not learning the piano. There's so many buttons. Ukulele had 4 strings, and that was a massive pain in the butt. A piano's got it's got loads of buttons.
Yeah, but when you get to the point where you can create a little bit of music, it is pretty awesome to be able to do. I will say that.
Nah, boring. Anyway, I like this. I like how what we'll do is we'll have whatever we've got on, whatever we're talking about the 35-minute mark, I'll drop the Zoom thing in, and if anyone wants to say hello, they can. I think we'll do that until it gets annoying, then we won't do that anymore. Okay, let's end with a couple of these questions off the list. All right, couple of these questions off the list. Do you swear, Matt? Obviously, we have a no swearing policy on all our podcasts, but are you sweary in real life?
Do I swear? Yeah, a lot. Always. I live in New York and I live in Brooklyn. The F word is quite literally a permanent part of our vocabulary. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adverb, and it's an adjective all at the same time. You cannot exist in Brooklyn unless you know how to swear properly.
Oh, hang on.
Literally, they stop you at the border and say, "Sorry, you got to go back to Disney Manhattan. You're not allowed in the real New York."
People who were in the chat room last night are saying they heard you swear last night because I started the audio on the stream. The very first thing they heard was you going, effity, effity, FF. I'm like, oh, Matt, I've just clicked the stream. It doesn't matter how much I tell you guys I'm starting the stream. Like, it's either you swearing or it's Chris telling, like, a deeply intimate dating story or something. I'm like, oh, geez. And I can't unmute it once we've done it. It can't be like, effity, you know, boobs butt, and then I mute it again. People are like, what the hell's that?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You may have said it, but it just like I was concentrating on a different task, so my mind didn't clock. You know, I try and explain this to my wife. No, this will be curious. I try to explain this to my wife sometimes about the way I listen. Like I will hear things, but I won't process them if I'm concentrating on something else.
Yeah,
you know. So like I was. I can't remember what I was trying to set up. It might have been the chat room or something like that. So you say these words and they pass through my ears and my mind even hears them, but they don't register as the live stream has started. Now I need to be on live stream behavior. Yeah. My wife does not buy this at all. She's like, I'm like, no, really, that's the way it works in my brain. I swear.
We have a caller on line 1 and I can see a steering wheel. So we must have a racer. Who are we speaking to? Welcome to Remain Indoors. Hello, caller. Can you hear us?
Look at me.
Yeah, hi there. You're a little bit muffled, but we can hear you. What's your name, fella?
Darren.
Darren?
Darren, with a G.
Oh, all right. How's it going? What game are you playing there? Is that a bit of iRacing?
Yeah, I've got you in one ear and in the
other. What's your comment for us today?
I'm just first time I've actually managed to listen live, so I just wanted to ring in and say hi. And you guys do an awesome job of keeping so many people entertained. I really love it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Where are you calling us from?
I'm in Australia.
Australia as well. See, this is the thing. We're like a drunk podcast for Australia, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah, well, this is fantastic.
You're a little muffled there. Thanks for saying hi. I'm going to hang up on you, but thank you. Do drop in again. Matt, what were you saying?
I was going to say, this is giving me hope for our live world tour that we are certainly planning at this point because we're popular in Australia, UK, United States. I mean, we could do New York, London.
Well, hang on. Popular. Some people tune into what we're doing in those countries. US is our highest across all our podcasts. The highest audience is in the US, then the UK, and then Australia. Australia is third. Well, there we go. I think the percentage of callers that we've had in, I struggled to hear that last one just a little bit, but it was lovely to hear from you and say hi. And I think generally, like, the better the audio quality is, the more likely we are to have a longer conversation. But if you want to pop in on your phone and say hello and do a quick question and bum off, I think that's absolutely fine, Matt. Last question then, in fact, 2. Whiskey, tequila, or vodka?
Well, whiskey, yeah.
I've recently started turning to tequila, right? Because the only experience I've really had of tequila is in the bar or a nightclub, and you down it, and Brits like doing, the salt on the things. You have to lick salt off yourself, down the tequila so you never even taste it, and then suck on a lemon wedge. So I never tasted it. I thought I've had loads of tequila. I've never tasted it. It turns out in Mexico, they don't just down tequila and then suck on a citrus fruit. They actually sip it, and there's some really nice tequilas. And I've ended up, sipping it like whiskey. And it's a nice drink.
I have a friend who collects like high-end tequilas. And yeah, if you get the really, really good stuff, it is, again, it's an entirely different thing. And I try to tell people this about whiskey, about anything. Like if you get this super high-end stuff, it's an entirely different aesthetic experience.
Definitely don't say bad words now, because we've got John and a child on the stream. Hello, John. Welcome to Remain Indoors. Tequila, whiskey, or vodka?
Ooh, tequila, whiskey, or vodka? Whiskey.
Whiskey. And now you're a Canadian
done.
person, aren't you?
What's that?
You're a Canadian, if I've remembered
Yes.
correctly. So it's whiskey and
Yeah.
maple syrup.
Yeah. Well, we have rye here too. I like rye a lot.
Excellent. Oh,
So-
any comment for us or question, John?
No, just thanks again for doing this. My son wanted to show you his haircut.
I want to see who did that. Oh, that's pretty cool.
So
It's-
wait, he wants to hear you. Can you talk? Is that okay? Can you
Yeah,
talk?
that's okay. That's a pretty cool haircut, Master Pollard. It's short at the
Yeah.
sides and quite long on top. That's proper funky.
Yeah, mom had to fix it a bit because he gave himself a mullet. And we got the old dog here, so this is what we do. We sit around listening to you guys and
And stay
yeah,
safe.
So, what's that?
Stay safe and remain indoors and cut your own hair. I could well do with your haircut as well, so I might have to pop in and have a socially distant haircut.
Actually, one question. You guys were thinking about doing a live thing over here. Where would that have been? In Montreal, New York? What was that?
So the
people?
plan that I am now crying about, because there's definitely, I don't think there's any way we can do it, was to, in early June, we had toyed with doing it over the Grand Prix weekend in Montreal. The problem is in Montreal is I think it's a tad colder as well. There was that issue, and people didn't want to do an activity that would stop them going to the track and actually seeing the qualifying and the Grand Prix. So we had settled in New York before, and we were talking to 2 tracks the weekend before to go and do karting. Now get this, John, your American cousins don't go karting in the rain. So we had a big problem of what happens if we book our event and it starts raining. They weren't going to let us race. Whereas in Canada, they're like, yeah, whatever. If it can be hail and snow, we don't care.
That's funny. Well, if New York works for me, I have a cousin at I don't know if this is close to Matt at what is it, 18th and Beverly, I think it is. East 18? I don't know.
That's a half a mile from where I live.
Yeah, so that's where I stay when I go watch sports and stuff. So
Brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll get a North American event up and running and a live show, and hopefully see you there, John. Thanks for calling in. We'll let you get on your way
guys.
and do more haircuts. Thank you, John.
all right, thanks guys.
That was actually a pretty stylish haircut there on John's kids.
I was impressed.
We've
was
had
impressed.
an attempt with the boy, and all we've done is just clippers up the side and kind of gently tried to fade it away. It looks sort of fine, but at least it looks like, basically when we had not cut it, he just looked like a child we had found, and he just looks like such a steak. So we just tried a little bit. He wouldn't let us do just clipper number 5 all the way off. He wasn't having it. He wanted to keep his beautiful hair, but we had to do something. And I think we've got to go, Matt. I only got 2 questions in, but I've got loads to go. I'm going to spend all of this week finding out interesting things about you. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with Tim Linden off of the radio. And he was on telly, actually, during the week. So I'm sure he's going to want to lord that
rub it
over
in?
me. Yeah, exactly. He's going to definitely want to... Not that me and Tim are competitive in our careers or anything
not
like
at
that. But, I mean, we're both doing terribly. So we're being competitive over, like, the very bottom echelons of media. But whatever. It will be fine. Guys, we believe in you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the positive feedback. Tell your friends that we do a podcast and a live stream, and that it's good fun, and that you can come and talk to us, and that we're good people to hang out with while you remain indoors. That's too long left, isn't it? I should write something down. I should write.
Where's the fun in that?
I'm going to write the outro down. Someone remind me before tomorrow. Email me, spannersready@gmail.com, and listen to this pre-prepared bit of audio to find out where to catch us more. If you're enjoying the show and the stream, there is a tip jar at There is a tip jar at Missed Apex Podcast /Remain Indoors. If you're appreciating what we're doing, and you want to encourage us to keep going, and I'll hack that down the middle with Matt Trumpets. Thank you, and good day, good afternoon, good morning, good night.